Okay, today's walk, as you can see, is at Charlestown. It's our last holding to do for these walks in Bethlehem Township. It's located off of 635 at just by the intersection with Mullen Lane. It's a fairly large property, but long and narrow. But again, it's back to mostly a wooded walk today. And we'll head out soon and see if we can find anything new, or maybe I'll start trying to test you on some IDs. Again, Charlestown for today's walk. Just right of the directory board sign is the trailhead. This is a thick little edge habitat that we have to push through, but the trail does open up. Once we get up to the top, after about a 100-foot elevation change, the trail system does become old farm fields, large enough for vehicles to drive on. So it is sort of a fairly easy walk outside of the initial climb up. The trail system, if you know it, or not, if you look at the map, it's what I would call a lollipop on top of a lollipop. It's a stem with a loop, another stem to the last loop at the edge of the property. Probably won't do the whole thing. I'll leave a little bit for you to explore on your own. But let's start walking. Okay, these white things are not a fungus. It's actually a wildflower. It's called Indian pipe, and I'll try to put the camera to the side in a bit. But it's one of the unique wildflowers that can be found in Hunterdon County because it has no green to it. It's sort of existing off of the nutrients in the ground, but it doesn't really process sunlight. Some people think they are a fungus, but again, it is a wildflower. It gets the name Indian pipe because it kind of looks like an old ivory pipe from the side. Again, the droop structure is the flower, but it's one of the tree or wildflowers you will find in some moist woodland areas. Indian pipe. Okay, when you come to the big Evergreen Stand, you know you're on the first loop. Believe it or not, this used to be a Christmas tree farm, and these trees just get bigger and bigger every year, and less foliage at the bottoms. But one of the things you'll notice, kind of like you saw in the Arboretum video with the oaks, you can see how there's sort of a line to the tree plantings, and that's the general indication that you know that this was a man-made forest, woodlot, whatever you want to call it, because nature does not put trees in natural lines. Okay, this is the start of the next linear spur to the second loop. As you can see, it's still the red trail. We never really changed color here because other than the two loops, there are no other spurs or anything really off these trails for the public. I'll go down this a little bit, but I don't think I'm going to be doing the extra loop just because of a time factor. Okay, I'm showing you a shot of the bark in probably about a 18 inch wide tree. It's one of the taller trees in the area. But the reason I'm showing it is I actually referenced this tree in the Tower Hill walk. And the leaf of this tree is right here, and you can see if you the pattern might look familiar to it, with these sort of large tooths at the edge of the leaf. And this is big tooth aspen again. So this is the tree I showed you as a sapling in Tower Hill. But here in Charlestown, you can see that it has the capability of reaching the canopy, and if it's coming out in the video, you might be able to hear the wind, and that's these leaves rattling, making a sort of a quaking sound, which is the other aspen we have known as quaking or trembling aspen, but big tooth does this, make the sound as well. These white butterflies should not give anyone an issue. These are Cabbage Whites, probably one of the most common butterflies around. And of course I just scared them all off. But they're actually an invasive. They're from Europe. It's one of the reasons why they stay to the very end of the season. Mostly white with a little bit of black dots and a black tip to the wing. But again, they're not a moth. They don't have the feather-like antennas of moths. But again, these are called European Cabbage Whites. Okay, this one spur off of the front loop is not a trail. It's actually an emergency access point that we have. If you did try to walk it, you would end up trespassing onto private property. We have permission to use a private lane to access the center of the park in case of emergency, or if we need to do major trail work. But it's not for public use. So please respect our neighbors and enjoy the trail system that's open to you, and don't venture beyond it. Okay, hopefully you're getting the call, but this is a test for you on the bird species. We covered this bird in Cushitonk. It's a namesayer, so it's kind of saying part of its name. And if you haven't guessed by now, the bird making this call, even though it's nowhere to be seen, is rufous-sided towhee. Hopefully you got it. Okay, this is one of the ferns in Charlestown. The giveaway is the fact that it's actually divided 3 times. The main stem, the secondary stem, and then again there's a third stem off of that. There's really only one fern that is tripinnately compound, and again, for review, before I say the answer, review the walk at Mickwin. But this is lady's fern. Okay, this is usually a canopy tree, as it is here in Charlestown. We did this tree in Cushitonk, I believe. One of the classic indications of what it is are these lines on the bark. Also the leaves, unfortunately I can't get that close to them, sort of have a triangular tip. If you chewed on a fresh branch, you would get a bit of a familiar taste if you drink a certain kind of soda. If you have not figured it out yet, this tree here is black birch. Okay, here's another test tree. I'm giving you a sapling, but it should be fairly easy. If you're noticing, the leaves have a couple different patterns. I know I mentioned this tree in Musconetcong Gorge first, but I know I also cited it at another park. Here's one of the mittens. The other mitten is right here, and then it can also just have a simple lobe pattern. But this is a common sapling growing up here along the trail in Charlestown. But the leaves should be giving it away as sassafras. Okay, this one may test you. It's a shrub in the understory. We covered it in Musconetcong Gorge. The leaf pattern is somewhat unique. Not that equal in pattern on both sides of the main stem. I might have told you a story about galls and the shapes they take on the leaves, because this one's not showing any of it, but they look like the point of witches' hats. If that isn't enough of a clue, again, this is witch hazel, an understory here in Charlestown.